corpse. She was misguided and stubborn enough that I was sure she would blame herself for whatever had happened. She'd tear herself apart. I had to reach her somehow, and I couldn't do that for this spiritual Antarctica. Could they be the ones the captain was talking about? Or was it someone else? Damn it. Myself might have felt full of energy and life, but my mind was weary almost beyond measuring. Hadn't I done enough? Hadn't I helped with enough people, rescued enough prisoners, defeated enough monsters? I'd made enemies of some of the deadliest and most evil things on the planet and fought them time and again. And one of them had killed me for it. Rest in peace, it says on all those tombstones. I fought against the rising tide until it literally drowned me, so where the hell was my rest? My peace? 3 of the people you love will come to great harm, unless you find your murderer. My imagination conjured scenes filled with the anguish of people I cared most about, which pretty much settled things. Couldn't allow something like that to happen. Besides, there was one more thing that made me certain that I wanted to go back. At the end of the day, some son of a bitch had freaking killed me. And that's not the kind of thing you just let stand. And if it would let me get out of this place and let me move on to wherever it was I was supposed to go, maybe that was just a nice bonus. Okay, I said quietly. How does it work? He slid a pad and a piece of paper across the desk at me, along with a pencil. You get to go to an address in Chicago, he said. You write it there. Driver will drop you off. I took the pad and paper and frowned at it, trying to work out where to go. I mean, it wasn't like I could just show up anywhere. If I was going in as a pure spirit, it would be futile to contact any of my usual allies. It would take some serious talent to see a spirit that hasn't manifested itself, the way a ghost can occasionally appear to even a physical eye. My friends wouldn't even know I was there. Out of curiosity, I said, what happens if I don't catch the killer? His expression turned sober, and his voice became quieter. You'll be trapped there, maybe forever, unable to touch, unable to speak, watching things happen in the world with no ability whatsoever to affect them. Hell, I said quietly. Hell. That's cheerful. You're dead, son, Jack said. Cheer is contraindicated. I nodded. I was looking at one hell but a bump-ching of a risk. I mean, fitting in here in Chicago Tory might not be fun, but it probably wouldn't be torture either. Judging from what Carmichael and Jack had said, and from the way they went about their business, they were able to act in some fashion, maybe even do some good. They didn't look particularly thrilled to be doing what they were doing, but they carried that same sense of professional purpose with them. A ghost trapped on the mortal coil? That would be far worse. Always present, always watching, always impotent. I never really developed my don't get involved skills. I'd go crazy in a year and wind up one more pathetic, insane, trapped spirit haunting the town I'd spent my adult life protecting. Screw it, I said, and started writing on the paper. If my friends need me, I gotta try. Jack took the pad back with a nod of what might have been approval. Then he stood up and pulled on his suit coat. Car keys rattled in his hand. He was only medium height, but he moved with a confidence and a tightly leashed energy that once more made him seem familiar somehow. Let's go. Several of the cops, because I was sure they were cops, or at least were doing something so similar that the word fit, nodded to Jack as he went by. Hey, called someone from behind us. Murphy. Jack stopped and turned around. A guy wearing a suit that would have looked at home in the historic Pinkerton Detective Agency came over to Jack with a clipboard and held it out along with a pen. Jack scanned what was on it, signed off, and passed the clipboard back to the man. Jack resumed his walking speed. I stuck my hands in my duster pockets and stalked along beside him. Captain Colin J. Murphy, I asked quietly. He grunted. You're Karen's dad. He used to run the Black Cat case files. He didn't say anything. We went down to the elevator, past the guard angel, and out to the street, where an old blue Buick Skylark, one with tail fins and a roof, sat waiting by the curb. He went around to the driver's side, and we both got in. The rain drummed on the roof of the car. He sat behind the wheel for a moment, his eyes distanced. Then he said, Yeah. She's talked about you. He nodded. I hear you've looked out for my Carrie. Carrie? I tried to imagine the person who would call Murphy that to her face. Rollins had done it once, but only once. And not only was he her partner, he'd worked with her dad when she was a little girl. I mean, Rollins was practically family. Anyone else would need to be a Terminator from Krypton. Sometimes, I said, she doesn't need much in the way of protection. Everybody needs someone. Jack started the car, the engine coming to life with a satisfying throaty purr. He ran his hand over the steering wheel thoughtfully and looked out at the rain. You can back out on this if you want, son. Until you get out of this car. Once you do that, you've chosen your path and whatever comes with it. Yep, I said, and nodded firmly. The sooner I get started, the sooner I get done. His mouth quirked up at one corner and he nodded, making a grunting sound of approval. He peered at the pad, read at the address I'd written, and grunted. Why here? Because that's where I'll find the one person in Chicago I'm sure can help me, I said. Captain Murphy nodded. All right, he said. Let's go.
Yeah!